Auburn has officially claimed 4 more college football national championships, adding 1910, 1914, 1958, and 2004. So the Tigers are now saying they are a 9-time college football national champion. It's Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I am Jason Fitz. I don't know. I feel like I always say this. I feel like it's Oprah. You get a car. You get a car. You got to, like, Auburn went in yesterday and like, we'll take a championship. We'll take it. It was like a Black Friday sale on the championships, and they're just going out day after Thanksgiving and buying them all half price. This is wild to me. I'll use 2004 as a note for because most of us listening and watching don't remember 1910, 1914, probably 1958. But in 2004,
speak for yourself.
remember
It was a
Auburn
riveting year.
Yeah. I am the old person on this show. Auburn finished number 2 that year. They did not play in the BCS championship game, but they finished number 2 that year. But the number 1, the title went to USC. That title was vacated by the NCAA because of the Reggie Bush stuff, and all of a sudden you end up with Auburn saying, "Well, we finished number 2, therefore we shall take a title." I am stunned, Caroline, to see this from a program like Auburn.
I actually recently just claimed a Miss America title and an Olympic gold medal. So that is how you may now introduce me every time we open up the show. Thank you so much. It was really so much hard work, and I'm really proud. That's how silly you sound, Auburn. And that's my biggest thing here is we are talking about Auburn football with a storied history, with a long history of greatness, of championships, SEC championships. We are talking about one of the most reputable programs in the entire country. You're better than this. You are better, Auburn, than UCF-ing your way into more national championships. And of course, I'm talking about UCF, who just claimed a national championship because they had an undefeated regular season but didn't get into the college football playoff. Like, these are make-believe fairy tale national championships. You don't get to just wake up one day and say, I feel like having 4 more national championships today. That's not how this works. Now, in 2004, obviously, USC had to vacate that national championship. They beat Oklahoma in the national championship that year. But just because that win is vacated does not mean it's up for grabs. It doesn't mean that you can just say all of a sudden you won it. It means in the record books and the history books, it basically just never happened. Now, of course, we all remember that 2004 year. It was Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and those great USC teams that were celebrities in the city of Los Angeles. So you don't get to just act like you won it. You don't get to just put that year up in your stadium and say, "Yep, we won it," because we feel like we should have because we were second in the BCS in the AP voting. That it's embarrassing, frankly, and it's kind of pathetic. And Auburn is so much better than just claiming some of these fairy tale national championships. And it just kind of, I think, stains their reputation and just kind of questions the integrity of the entire reason why we do all of this, Fitz. Auburn is so much better than that. I have so much more respect for this program for them to be acting in this way.
Look, at the end of the day, Auburn has made themselves a laughingstock right now. And if you're an Auburn fan, you can't even fight that. Like, now you're in the same conversation as UCF. Good God. Like, this is not, you can't give yourself a nickname in life. You're not allowed to give yourself a nickname. You can't walk into a gym, tell everybody, hey, I've decided what like, people have to give you a nickname. You also can't give yourself a national championship. There is a process here. If they really think because the title was vacated that they should be named the champion, then I think they should go to the NCAA and see if the NCAA wanted to name them. If the NCAA had come out and said, you know what, because of the vacation of the 2004 national championship, we're going to now give that to Auburn. Like, in the Olympics, if somebody loses a gold, they have the right to go out and then give that gold to the silver final. They could do all these things. Fine. If the NCAA had come out yesterday and said, we're giving Auburn the 2004 NCAA championship, we would have laughed, but we would have laughed at the NCAA. Instead, we're laughing at Auburn. And this is the sort of thing you don't do when you're a serious program. This speaks to the fact Auburn right now is just absolutely scratching and crawling at relevance. Auburn, like, that's stunning to me. Can you imagine, Caroline, how it will feel when everyone's sitting in the stadium and suddenly you realize they're about to put banners up for these things? Like, they're really going to do that? That is such an insult to the actual teams that they've had that were worth celebrating. This is that moment that you do this when you don't belong with the big boys and you're trying trying to convince the world that you do. I never thought Auburn would fall to this level, and it's embarrassing for the fans, for the coaches, for the boosters, for the players. It's embarrassing for everybody around this. The only thing Auburn can hope is that we'll forget in 5 years that they just claim these things, and then maybe they can get away with it. But until then, every other fan base, rightfully so right now, is laughing and pointing their finger at Auburn.
I mean, I remember a time when Auburn actually was winning national championships, not just picking them out of thin air. And again, I have so much respect for this Auburn football program because they have such a storied history. It's been a rough few years for Auburn football. It's been, frankly, kind of an embarrassing few years for Auburn football. I mean, Gus Malzahn won a lot of games, but they didn't win enough. He didn't win enough, apparently. He didn't beat Alabama enough, and Auburn wanted more. Auburn got greedy. So Auburn cut ties with Gus Malzahn, and they brought in a guy named Brian Harsin, who drug Auburn's reputation through the mud. And then they bring in Hugh Freeze, which was kind of a joke in and of itself. But Auburn still hasn't been able to recover. Even bringing in Hugh Freeze that beat Alabama when he was at Ole Miss, couldn't even beat Vanderbilt last season. Couldn't even beat New Mexico State the year before. Again, we're talking about Auburn. I went to LSU. I used to be terrified of the Auburn game every single year because Auburn had one of the best defenses in the country, and Auburn was always a tough out. Now I look at Auburn on a majority of schedules, not just my alma maters, but schedules across the SEC, and Auburn's not an automatic fat red L on their opponent's schedule like it used to be. Now it's kind of like, can Auburn make a bowl game? And so it's not just these national championships, these phony national championships that are embarrassing. It's just the next layer of embarrassing things in a series of embarrassing, unfortunate events that Auburn has been going through since Brian Harsin took over and since they cut ties with the Gus Bus. And frankly, Fitz, I don't know if I see much more room for optimism for this 2025 Auburn squad. I mean, look, Jackson Arnold comes in, and if you forgot, Jackson Arnold was a transfer from Oklahoma. When he committed to Oklahoma, he was the golden boy. He was supposed to be the next great one, right? The next Kyler Murray and the next Baker Mayfield. He was a 5-star recruit. Everyone in the state of Oklahoma was buzzing about Jackson Arnold. Then he comes in and it really wasn't that great. Oklahoma really struggled this past season. So there's a lot of thought and a lot of hope that, well, Auburn has been a franchise that has been without a quarterback. And Hugh Freeze has been a coach, a quarterback whisperer that's just been without a legitimate starting quarterback. And maybe Jackson Arnold just needed a fresh start. He needed to get away from all of the buzz and all of the hype and all of the pressure that came from Oklahoma. So it would be fair to think that maybe this is the perfect fit. Maybe this is the perfect match. A team that needed a quarterback and a quarterback that needed a team. And I hope for Jackson Arnold and this Auburn team that I have so much respect for, the history of this program, I hope for their sake that it's the perfect match. I just can't put my money on that, Fitzy.
I am right now looking at the CFP final rankings of Auburn year by year since the year 2000. They've only finished the season as a top 10 ranked team twice, it looks like. Twice in all of this. So you start looking at this, and look, I understand if you go all the way back to 2010, they had some finishes there. You know, they've had obviously the number 1 finish, number 2 finish. That's it. So you look at the record over the last 25 years. When's the last time Auburn was really relevant for anything other than when they play Alabama? Like, just
forget a top 10 finish, Fitz. How many times, let's just say since 2010, has Auburn won more than 8 games?
Yeah, since 2010, they've won more than 8 games twice. So quick look, they've won 8 games once.
Wait, that's fewer times than I thought. In the last 15 years, they've won 8 games or more twice?
Yeah. So since 2010, in 2010, they were 14-0. Obviously, that was the big year. And since then, they have a 12-2 and a 10-4, and a 9-4. Sorry, I missed that one. So they have 3 times that they've finished with more than 8 wins in that process. Like, all of this speaks to who Auburn really is. Like, if we're being fair, Auburn is a team that had a moment. And just like Nebraska was absolutely everything to college football fans in the 80s and 90s, and it's fair to admit that Nebraska used to mean everything, and now Nebraska is just sort of all we talk about is the lore of old Nebraska. That's where Auburn is at this point. Auburn at this point is just a forgotten program that at one point in time, a very brief point in time, was dominant in the national conscience. Since then, truly the most incredible thing that most people currently remember Auburn for, other than Cam Newton, is the kick six. Like they need Alabama to
Oh,
prop them
but
up
what
to
a
even be
great
part of the
moment.
conversation. Yes,
One of the great moments in college football.
An all-time great moment. But I fear that, we talk all the time about college football expansion and what it means. Auburn is one of the programs I do reference when I say all the time that the middle of these conferences are going to be left behind. We're going to forget about Auburn. We're going to forget about Wisconsin ever being good, Nebraska being good. Like these teams that are stuck in the middle of the Big Ten, in the middle of the SEC, are going to have a once every 10-year shot at the college football playoff, and they're just going to be forgotten. We're going to spend the next 10 years talking about who Auburn was for a brief period. And I think when you actually look at the history books, that brief period, especially for anyone that's under the age of 25, like what is your big allure to Auburn right now? Because they haven't really been part of the national consciousness by the end of the season at all for most of the last 15 years.
And it is crazy because Auburn attracts so much talent. I mean, they have a receiver now, Cam Williams, that was, excuse me, his name escapes me. Apologies. Cam Coleman, I believe his name is. He was more highly recruited than Ryan Williams at Alabama. You guys remember Ryan Williams last year, that incredible ballerina gazelle-like catch against Georgia, projected to be, rightfully so, one of the best receivers in all of college football. I mean, Kim Coleman was recruited even more than Ryan Williams was. It's not like it's a lack of talent up and down. It's just been mismanagement from the top. It's been hiring the wrong coaches. It's been a string of moments that falls below what my expectation for Auburn really is. And my expectation for Auburn is, look, you're in the conversation at least for an SEC championship every year. But there have been far more times than not that they have actually been that.